Yes. Good morning, Horizon Church, and welcome to Friday. Good morning, Estella, Marianne, Angelica. Glad you are here and plugged in this morning. So our tribe, in fact, more than our particular tribe of faith, but really the whole Christian community. In the last couple of years, you and I have been exposed to all kinds of stories, ugly, ugly stories about almost an epidemic of young boys and young girls who were abused at the hands of church leaders, pastors, and priests. And we have had stories. Kind of the church had its own Me Too movement. Stories of um, young men, young women, people of all ages who were taken advantage of by people who are in power in churches, um, and stories. These have not been as well known, but in my circle, stories of pastors who are overworked and underpaid, who find themselves in churches where they get bullied into doing things like buying copiers, or buying computers for the church office because the church comes to the pastor and says, "Sorry, pastor, we can't afford it, and we know you need it, and I wish there was something we could do." So the pastor ends up buying it and getting bullied into really, putting the church on his shoulders, and all kinds of ugly, 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 ugly stuff. And the problem behind all of this stuff, it's far more than a boundary problem. It is far, far bigger than a problem of boundaries and the art of saying no, which is what we need to talk about this morning. But it is at least in part a problem of boundaries. So we're finishing up week 3 this morning of our Lenten series, 7 weeks long, learning to love God. And this week on Sunday, we started talking about how we love God by loving people. And I told you this week, after talking on Monday, giving you a challenge about doing something in secret for people, just between you and God, which I have a plan, haven't done it yet, but I intend to this weekend. Um, we talked on Tuesday about loving the people who, you could say, they're easy to love, people that are in our lives that we love deeply. But I told you that we're going to spend most of our time this week talking about how to love difficult people. And we're finishing that today. And I want to talk about loving people, how to love difficult people. And we want to talk about boundaries, such an important concept, the concept of boundaries, how to say no. The concept of boundaries starts with what psychologists would call just this sense of self, just the ability to have a really healthy sense of self. All of us are, every single one of us, we are unique people. We have our own interests, we have our own thoughts, our own beliefs, our own feelings, we have our own hobbies. Some of us are morning people, some of us are night people. We own our own pickup trucks and we own our own motorcycles and our own chainsaws. We have our own temperaments. We have our own worries. We have our own gardens out back. And in a perfect world, all of us would be able to just maintain a very healthy sense of stuff. This is me. This is a sense of self. Sorry, this is me. This is my world, and I'm in charge of all of this. But it is not a perfect world, and we are always bumping into each other, and we're always crashing into each other, and because we don't have a healthy sense of self, and because we live in a world where we're always kind of bumping and crashing into each other, um, we end up with a confusion of boundaries. Where do I begin, and where do I end, and where do you begin and where do you end? And so you have somebody who says to you, "Hey, can I borrow your chainsaw?" And you let them do it because they're neighbors, they're friends, or whatever. Or you have somebody from the church come to you and say, "Hey, can I borrow your pickup truck?" And of course you let them do it. Um, and 6 months later, fall comes and you want to take down a tree, and "Where's my chainsaw?" "Oh yeah." And you have to go track down your chainsaw. You knock on the door of your neighbor, "Hey, where's my chainsaw?" And your neighbor says, "Oh yeah, I forgot to bring it back to you." "Hey, I meant to tell you that I think the bar busted. I was using your chainsaw and the thing just quit working. And now you have a chainsaw that doesn't work, and you had to track it down, and the no offer to help pay for it." Or somebody brings your pickup truck back after borrowing it. You sit in your pickup truck, and your cab is all full of Hostess Twinkie scrap paper all over the place, and there's a half filled Coke cup sitting in the little cup thing, and the gas tank is empty, and this sense of somebody's taking your stuff and using it, and they haven't used it responsibly, or worse, boundaries gets worse when people feel that they have a claim on your time, or people feel like they can judge your feelings or your beliefs, or people misuse you or they hurt you. And it gets worse when people feel like they can misuse your body and do things to you inappropriately. And this is the kind of stuff that happens all the time. And this sense of self, this healthy sense of self, what therapists call this healthy sense of sense, what is me and what is not me, it gets abused and it gets broken and it gets taken advantage of all the time in our world by difficult people, and even people who aren't difficult people who just don't have a good sense of boundaries. And so it sounds really, really simple, this concept. It sounds like everybody should get this. What is me and what is not me? But for some reason, it is not simple, and it gets broken and it gets abused and it gets misused in our world all the time. And people feel like they, either we have an unhealthy sense of boundaries for ourselves, and maybe you're a person who is sometimes guilty of, misusing a sense of boundaries, and maybe you let your own beliefs and opinions and values overflow into somebody else, and you get upset when somebody believes differently from you and you can't figure it out and you let them know. Or the flip side is you get taken advantage of because you don't have a healthy sense of your own boundaries and you can't say no, and you let people control you. You let people control your time. You let people control your sense of self and your body, and it happens all the time. And our boundaries get messed up because this sense of self, what is me and what is not me, we handle it poorly. So boundaries are about when we want to, in one way or another, we overflow into what really belongs to somebody else, whether we're talking about their beliefs, their values, their interests, their pickup truck, their bodies, whatever it is. When we let somebody else take responsibility for me, for how I think, how I believe, what I have, how I use my time, my energy, my body, et cetera, et cetera. And boundaries are a mutual problem. It is not just a problem for the difficult person. Boundaries are a problem for both of us. Boundaries are a problem for me when I cannot maintain my own boundaries, when I allow other people to take advantage. I don't respect my own boundaries. I don't have a sense of what's me and what is not me. And I let people into areas of my life that really are about me, and that those other people have no business doing that. And a lot of us have this issue. We don't have the ability to have healthy boundaries. And then boundaries are a problem, obviously, for other people when they don't have a healthy sense of boundaries and they feel like they have some kind of right, some kind of claim on us. So let me talk briefly about both these mutual kind of issues with boundaries. Let me talk about me for a second, and you for yourself. What happens when we're dealing with difficult people, or even not so difficult people who just don't have healthy boundaries. When it comes to me and my own sense of healthy boundaries, if I don't have healthy boundaries, if I don't maintain a healthy sense of boundaries, the things that happen to me, for example, I have a really difficult time saying no. People will make requests, and I have a hard time saying no to people, or it's tough for me to make decisions because I'm aware of the fact that my decision is going to impact other people. And this is a classic problem of the people pleaser. Somebody who's a people pleaser has a tough time saying no. They have a tough time making decisions because we think that I'm responsible for keeping another person happy. Classic sense of boundaries. I worry about the impact of what I do on you because I have this sense that my goal is to keep you happy. Another thing that goes on with boundaries when I have unhealthy ones is I don't like asking for help. I'm afraid of obligating you. Because I don't have a healthy sense of boundaries, I naturally assume you don't either. And I assume you don't like to say no. So I'm afraid to ask for help because I don't trust other people to have a healthy sense of boundaries. I rely on other people for my happiness. I kind of am evaluating the world around me, and I'm kind of have this little bit of a sense of stress because if other people aren't happy, if they're tense, if they're anxious, then I'm not happy and I'm tense and I'm anxious because I think you are responsible for me. I easily get hurt if I don't have a healthy sense of boundaries. People can easily mess with me, and I take offense very easily. I'm easily manipulated. I'm easily taken advantage of. I often find myself getting caught up in other people's problems. Um, Sometimes people who are mercy givers and who have big hearts, who also may not have a healthy sense of boundaries, they involve themselves in other people's problems, and the next thing you know, they're overwhelmed. They're going home and they're feeling burdened by other people's problems because you've gotten far too caught up in other people's problems. You have a hard time. You have a hard time kind of articulating your own faith, your own beliefs, your own ideas apart from what other people believe, and you invest yourself in keeping other people happy, and you struggle with the fact that other people believe differently than you, and sometimes you get offended by the fact that somebody has a difficult political belief. When election season comes around and somebody's articulating something that's different from you, it offends you. So those are the problems with me. That's what happens when I do not have a healthy sense of boundaries. And this the people pleasers in the church are it's an epidemic. I know it personally. And that's all about having an unhealthy sense of boundaries. What is me and what is not me. Now, the flip side is, let's talk a little bit about people, the difficult people, or maybe even not difficult people, but just people in your life who don't have boundaries either. What happens when there are people who don't respect your boundaries? People like that often tend to be on the aggressive side. They just assume that they can take responsibility for your decisions, your belief. They may make very kind of unrealistic demands on your time and on you. They may manipulate you into doing things you don't want to do, because they seem to think they have a right to do that. They may jump into situations without necessarily asking. They just like kind of force their way in. They may jump into your beliefs without asking and without any respect for you. They may just think that they have a right to tell you what to believe and what's right and what you should do. They may interrupt your thoughts. They may interrupt your conversations, because they're just thinking they know, and you're having a conversation and they just know, and so they kind of they jump in. They don't allow other people to say no. They seem to be offended and take offense when somebody says no to them. They may dismiss, and they may kind of discount other people's ideas, and beliefs. They may expect other people to feel the same way. Again, we just finished this election season, and man, that was just epidemic. This sense of people thinking that they have a right to tell us what we should believe. And I had people say to me, "I can't believe that you would blah 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 blah," thinking that they just had a hard time thinking that I would believe something different from them. So people who struggle with this, they expect everybody to believe the same way. They may get offended, they may get hurt when you express that you believe something different from you, and they may pressure you. They may pressure you to act or to believe or to think the same way or to give into them. So that's the classic kind of definition of people who are forcing their way into your lives because they don't have boundaries. So boundaries go both ways. It's about me. When I do not have a healthy sense of boundaries, a healthy sense of self, I don't have a healthy sense of what's me and what is not me. And it's a problem for other people, especially for difficult people. So for you and I, there's no secret sauce to any of this. There's nothing I can do that's going to say to you, do X, Y, Z, and it solves the problem. There are two key responsibilities that you and I have with boundaries. One is to respect the boundaries of other people, to respect the self of others. Um, to respect that their beliefs are theirs, to respect the idea that that their time is theirs, their energy is theirs, their life is theirs, their body is theirs. It's not yours, it's theirs. So we respect the boundaries of other people. We respect the sense of self of other people. They are them, they're not you. The second responsibility we have with boundaries is to maintain our own, to have a healthy sense of my own boundaries, what is me and what is not me. So we have both of those responsibilities when it comes to others, to respect the boundaries of others and to respect our own. So there's no, like I said, there's no magic sauce to any of this. There is no way that I can say to you, hey, here's the secret to this. Um, the bottom line is, when it comes to respecting other people's boundaries, they have a right to say no. They have a right to say no. And when it comes to yours, you can say no. You have a right to. This is an area, to be honest with you, because I was brought up in a tribe where there was this conviction that comes from false biblical ideas that it's our goal to keep everybody else happy. We have to do whatever anybody else asks us to do. Under a false definition of love. I grew up in a tribe that I just assumed it was my idea. It was my goal to keep people happy. So as an adult, I ended up going for some counseling sessions, for some therapy. I didn't know it was a boundary issue, but after the very first session, sitting down with the counselor, talking about what was going on in my life and why I was so stressed and blah, 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 blah. He identified it as a boundary issue. There's a great book that he had me read called Boundaries by Henry Cloud and something Townsend. It's a bestseller. You can find it, I'm sure. But I read the book, went for a couple counseling sessions. And the primary thing he taught me was this sense of I can say no. I'm able to define what's me and what's not me. And it's funny, I was very highly motivated. So after 2 or 3 sessions, I came back to me and he said to me, wow, you are saying no with abandon. And he, after just a very short period of time, kind of dismissed me and said, hey, if you ever need some, a refresher, come back and we'll talk about it. But I still struggle with some of the stuff, some of the people pleasing nature, which is just, I'm going to struggle with it all of my life. But I went to counseling for this, to deal with boundary, and you may need to too. You may need to seek a little bit of counseling and get some good advice. But the issue is, you have to develop a healthy sense of me and what is not me, and you can say no. And this idea is actually a biblical idea. It comes from the Bible, this concept. There are 2 back-to-back sentences in the book of Galatians, and they often seem contradictory. They are not contradictory. In Galatians chapter 6, verse 2, and then verse 5, just a couple sentences later, the first sentence is from Galatians chapter 6, verse 2. It says, bear one another's burdens. Bear one another's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. The law of Christ is, of course, to love one another. So that's sentence 1, bear one another's burdens. Just like 2 or 3 sentences later, in Galatians chapter 6, verse 5, Paul wrote, each person must carry his or her own load. Each person must carry his or her own load. And a lot of people read those and they think they're contradictory. On one hand, Paul is saying, hey, we have to carry each other's burdens. And then just a few sentences later, he's saying each of us must carry our own load. And the key to understanding this is, again, in our English Bibles, we kind of miss this, but Paul uses 2 different words, and they're significant words. They're really, really important words. In the first sentence, when he talks about carrying each other's burdens, he's using a word. We understand what the word burden is. A burden is an excessive weight. It's more than I can carry. We use burden that way. That's what the English word means. It means it's too heavy, it's too much, it's too big. I can't carry it on my own. And Paul is saying, because we love each other, you and I can make a decision to help somebody else carry their excessive weight. We can, because we love somebody else, we can involve ourselves because we decide to. We're not forced, we're not manipulated, but out of love, we choose to help somebody else carry their excessive, the problems that they deal with. The second sentence, when Paul said each of us has to carry his or her own load, that word load is a word that we might use the English word cargo. And the idea is that a truck or a trailer or a ship is designed to carry a certain amount of weight. I have a little trailer that I use for holding firewood, and the tires and the metal frame tell me how much weight I can comfortably put in that trailer. And the trailer is designed, the tires are designed for it, and everything is going to go peachy keen when I keep it to the appropriate cargo. And Paul is saying, look, in life, all of us have a load to carry. Every single one of us do. All of us do. We have a life that's mine, and my life comes with a certain amount of cargo that I have to deal with. And Paul is saying in there, look, you got to carry your own. You got to get a job, bucko. You got to take care of yourself. I have no right to not work and tell you got to take care of me. That's what Paul is saying in here, and he actually dealt with that exact problem in some of his letters to to the church. He was saying, "Hey, I've heard that a whole bunch of people aren't working. What's going on with that? Don't feed them if they're not working." Is what Paul said. So there's this concept of it's scriptural. There's this concept of people have excessive weight, and I can choose because I love them to involve myself and help them carry it. But he's also saying all of us have a load that I am responsible for. That's me. That's mine. That's my sense of self. The definition of what Paul is talking about, we use the word boundaries to talk about it. So when it comes to difficult people in our lives, when it comes to difficult people, and we've talked about this now Wednesday and Thursday, and today, the last day, Friday, boundaries is such an important issue. It's biblical. And the idea is that you have a healthy sense of you, what is me and what is not me, what's the load, what's the cargo that I have to carry for myself, and how can I choose to involve myself in the lives of other people that I love because I want to help them. So you can say no, and you can do that freely and without being forced to think that anybody telling you that, making you feel guilty for doing that. You can say no. And all those problems that we talked about in the beginning of this, all the problems that we deal with, it is far more than a boundary problem. And I recognize that there's far more going on than boundaries. And yet boundaries is also a key part of the problem. It's a key part of the problem because people don't have a healthy sense of what is me and what is not me. And I think I have a right to something that you have, and I do not. So we finish up with that. Estella asked us if we would pray for her family. We're going to be having a funeral service for Estella's mom in a little bit this morning. So we want to pray for Estella, pray for all of us. And I didn't get to read all of the messages. So I hope it's working. I didn't read it. And if it's not, man, I am so sorry. It would really drive me nuts if I just spoke for 23 minutes and it ain't working. Wouldn't be the first time I screwed up doing this, but I hope it worked. So love you all. And let me pray and hope that this was not totally wasted. Some of you look like you're having issues this morning. Sorry. So let me pray. Father, thank you very much for the day. We pray for each of us when it comes to this issue of what is me and what is not me. Father, I pray that through your Spirit, you'd help us to recognize we can choose to help each other carry our excessive burdens. We can choose to love and involve ourselves in other people's lives. We do that because we're commanded to by you. But God, I pray that you'd help us to recognize that we all have our own loads to carry, and nobody else has the right to force their load, their cargo on me and manipulate me into carrying it. So, Father, I pray that you give all of us a healthy sense of who you've made us to be, a healthy sense of what is me and what is not me. God, I pray for Estella and her family today. They're going to walk through a difficult time. And I pray, God, that you bless them. And I pray that you would fill them with your peace and the hope that we have because of Jesus Christ. And I pray this all in Jesus' name. Amen. All righty, everybody. Love you all. I'm glad it worked, Angelica. Sorry for any issues that you were all having. Love you all. Hope you have a great Friday. And tomorrow Q&A Saturday morning, maybe I'll see some of you there. I haven't really gotten any questions yet, but I'll make up some questions and answer them tomorrow. So love you. Have a great Friday.